Just making sure that everybody who arrives now knows that they're in the right place, just in case they weren't too sure.
If they come to the wrong place, I hope that they'll stay and join us.
Wouldn't that be lovely, Gwen? Wouldn't that be great? I am going to ask everybody to just keep your microphones on mute. Welcome to all the wonderful familiar faces who've just appeared on my screen out of nowhere. It's wonderful. I'm going to ask everybody to just stay on mute unless you are speaking, and I'm going to ask Laurie to start off with a welcome and a presencing. Thank you, Laurie.
Great. So it's a great privilege for me to, on behalf of the board, to welcome all of you with the warm welcome of the CTII, coming from afar until this day. Mary Frost has reminded us in some other space the other day that CTII was always welcoming, wanting to be welcoming to people of all faiths and none. And that's such a beautiful, warm heart that is pulsing there, and such an invitation for all of us into hospitality that is open-hearted and embracing. And I think we've had that example from the District 6 days without being too sentimental only about it, but there we had an example of such hospitality. We had it in the struggle against apartheid, that connection between those people of all faiths and none that work together in a struggle to bring justice. And we also have seen it in the CTII at many times, also during the first Parliament of World Religions held here in Cape Town. So we've got an example set over many years that keeps inspiring us. That doesn't mean that we'll shy away from having courageous conversations also about difficult issues. That is the challenge of our time, as it has been, I suppose, of all times. But still, you are warmly welcomed in this space, in this community. And we're just going to arrive ourselves wherever we are while we're virtually connected at this time. So I'm going to ask you may want to close your eyes, have a soft gaze in front of you, and just feel the support of the chair where you're sitting, maybe with your feet planted on the ground in the earth, feeling the support of the land, the earth from which we all come, and maybe feeling some tension in our bodies and just bringing the attention of our breathing to that space within ourselves of discomfort, maybe even uncomfortable emotions that we are sitting with and that we are bringing with us. Just bringing all of that to awareness. And as we do this short breathing exercise and have a bit of silence and quiet, we just settle into ourselves and connect with our hearts, the center of our being that also radiates out the warmth, the love that we seek to share here. And we settle on our breath, the rhythm of it given to us from the beginning of our lives. And we do that in silence. So we take a last deep breath in and out. And we bring our silence to a close. We connect with each other as you're comfortable to open your eyes. On the screen, again, from that deep place of your heart, as you open your eyes, you just connect to the others in the room. Amen. Thanks, Perry.
Thank you, Laurie. You're not supposed to hand back to me. You're supposed to hand over to Pippa now. So, but I will do that happily. Pippa and Zebada have prepared something very special to start off our proceedings. Thank you, Pippa and Zebada.
Actually, it's going to be Zebada who leads us into this next few minutes that we're going to share together. But our focus is going to be on the beautiful land in which we find ourselves here today and an acknowledgement of it. So over to you, my dear sister.
Thank you, Pippa. And thank you everyone for inviting me to be part of your journey. I'm deeply inspired and moved by the interspiritual and traditional tolerance, connection, and love in the hearts and spirit of the interfaith peoples on this platform. I'm humbled by the sense of respect, humility, oneness, and the non-judgmental approach I observed. I myself come from a Christian background and have always carried the sense that there's more to me than just experiencing and enriching myself with only within the boundaries of my own faith. Little did I know that our Creator will at one time open my eyes to this beautiful interfaith harmony of the CTII, an existing body that I became aware of in such an unconventional way, but divine way. Apart from my ancestry as a Khoi indigenous woman, I'm also proud and honored to be married to a Muslim man. Our journey together has enriched me with a sense of selfless love, humility, and openness to value diversity and to gain interspiritual knowledge that an interfaith marriage can coexist and blossom beyond the boundaries of religion. My dad's wedding speech to us on our wedding day was that he felt he has contributed to creating unity by blessing our union and thereby, in his own way, giving hope to the people of Israel. He would always make reference of us all being brothers and sisters coming from the same seed. And if we as humans take that to heart and realize that love can be limitless and without greed, then we can fulfill one of the biggest requirements of faith. Having said this, and to continue with the legacy of that my dad has left me, my main goal is to bring restoration, healing, and justice to those in need. I now would like to hand over to my soul sister, Pippa Jones, and fellow indigene, who share my vision and desire of uplifting and restoring the dignity of the indigenous people of this country. Pippa Jones.
Thank you, Zebada. I also, before I start, want to acknowledge, I know Our beloved brother Andre Naidu is on the call, and Nick and Anne Payton, who have been part of a bigger and deeper discussion that has led up to today. So honoring the three of you also. I'm going to read a few words by a beautiful Native American writer, actually, but I feel her words may speak perfectly to what Zebada and I hope to bring to you today. So with that in mind, just take a moment, rather than maybe look at me, just sort of look away or find something that you can connect to in your immediate environment, because these words are so beautiful and so powerful and so appropriate, I feel. So her name is Linda Hogan. As I said, she's Native American, and she has written extensively, and this is an excerpt from her book on deep listening. Sometimes I hear it talking. The light of the sunflower was one language, but there are others more audible. Once in the redwood forest, I heard a beat, something like a drum or heart coming from the ground and the trees and the wind. That underground current stirred a kind of knowing inside me, a kinship and a longing, a dream barely remembered that disappeared back to the body. Another time, there was the booming voice of an ocean storm thundering from far out at sea, telling about what lived in the distance, about the rough water that would arrive wave after wave, revealing the disturbance at center. Tonight I walk. I am watching the sky. I think of the people who came before me and how they knew the placement of stars in the sky, watched the moving sun long and hard enough to witness how a certain angle of light touched a stone only once a year. Without written records, they knew the gods of every night, the small, fine details of the world around them, and the immensity above them. Whichever road I follow, I walk in the land of many gods, and they love and eat one another. Walking, I am listening in a deeper way. Suddenly, all my ancestors are behind me. Be still, they say. Watch and listen. You are the result of the love of thousands.
Before the first European set foot on the coast of the southernmost point of Africa, we were here, thriving along the coastline. Before slaves and immigrants were released, which started District 6, we thrived and was protected by the lost world. Before an Australian planted his Jackson trees in the dunes, we were already here. Before German settlers invaded our space in the dunes because of our water resources, we were already here. Before the Wesleyan Mission Society discovered us and the Methodists declared our home a mission station, we were here. Before the eviction of people from District 6, starting the group areas such as Mitchell's Plain, Hanover Park, Athlone. We were here. Before Khayelitsha, Nyanga, and Gugulethu were even a thought, we were here. Before the Europeans gained the confidence to explore the lost world, we were here. Before the maps and routes of the lost world were drawn up, we were here. Our history, our tongue, and deaths, our tombstones, speak our truth. Even if it makes perfect sense to you today that your ancestors came from the east, the south, the west, or the north, all foreigners came to our shore through traditional Khoi land from all parts of the world. They came here and multiplied with the Khoi and San peoples. So in light of this, all of you present here today, with your unique and beautiful differences, are all linked to the traditional custodians of this land, the Khoi and San peoples. So now the question, have you heard of Indogene? Indogene is an inclusive, spiritual, and tradition. Indogene is inclusive of all spirituality and tradition, and is the residual product of the original custodians of this land. So my brothers and sisters, you are all indigenous. You are all Indogene. Today, I give your identity back to you. Today, you're no longer colored. You're no longer a bastard child. You're no longer a slave or any of that sort. There is no need to group yourself with other sources, such as gangsterism, to feel a sense of belonging. You are Indogene. You are the product of our Almighty Creator and the children of the Khoi and San peoples. Indogene, you were created by our Creator with good purpose. Our Creator had a vision in mind when He created you. You were purposefully made with a seed of sizable meaning so that you can grow a lush forest of goodness. You have a unique purpose in life, Indogene. Unleash your purpose. Indogene, our gravesites are entrapped with a wealth of unlived potential. I beg of you, don't add to the riches of the graveyard. You owe it to the future generations to live courageously, so that the treasure of your potential is unleashed, so that the future Indogene can benefit. Indogene, love your purpose. Indogene. So man, human, don't be scared to shamelessly and fearlessly tap into the innate nature of your motherliness. Let us unite, give hope, give love, give identity, give dignity back to our future generations. Gangans Abotse, Gangans Indogene. Thank you very much, everybody.
Now, we were going to close with something very special that we have created for CTII, which we hope will be something that we can embrace as a community together going forward. But before I do, let me give it just a brief moment of context. There is, of course, a kind of violence and a kind of racism that all nations have experienced in one way or another, and it's called epistemic. And epistemic really means that not seeing and not hearing the unseen and the voiceless, and creating environments where that unseeing and that unhearing continue. And it's very interesting if you explore the Torah or the book of Genesis in the Christian Old Testament. You hear, of course, the voice of God in many statements, especially in the creation story. Let there be, let there be, let there be, let there be. The only and the first time that God asked a question, the question was, where are you? He asked that of Adam first, then later Abraham. Where are you? And I've meditated on that over the years and thought that in a way, it's a question where God is asking us to consider not just our immediate environment, but where and how and when we find ourselves. Where are you? And there is a thing that, a tradition that countries such as Canada and New Zealand and Australia, and very slowly now also in the United States, have begun to embrace. And this is called Acknowledgement of Land. And in Australia, where I was living, working and studying for 6 years, there's never a school assembly, a council meeting, a church gathering, or any kind of event where there is a social gathering where people don't do what this is called an acknowledgement. And we decided that we would like to write our own for CTII purposes, so that we can always together consider, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? So I believe, Nima, you're going to share the screen. And I would like to read it for you. And this, as I say, will be something that we hope that we can set as a precedent, so that when we gather for our big meetings and events, that we can do something similar. So read in silence and I will speak it out, but just to sit and consider the words. We pause to recognize the ground upon which we are gathered today here in the Western Cape. We acknowledge its rich and complex history and pay our respects to its original custodians, the Khoi people of today, their ancestors and generations emerging, cousins to the San, and to all those native to this nation, brothers and sisters of us all. We give thanks for their millennia of care of this land. In peace and gratitude, we honor all peoples, all origins, all identities, all those for whom this land is home. And may the lessons of the past teach and guide us for the future. And so it is. Thank you.
Zebada and Pippa, thank you so much. I was going to introduce Zebada a little bit later under a slightly different context, but I do want us all to just acknowledge Zebada is the daughter of King Abraham January of the Khoi Nation. She comes from a long line of King Abraham Januaries dating back centuries. Her late father has left his title and the reins to their royal house to Zebada, making her Queen of the Khoi Nation. Respect and thanks. Let us hand over to Nick and Anne Payton, who have very generously offered to bring us an item of music at this time. Thank you, Zebada and Pippa.
Thank you to all of you. we'd like to sing a song called The Song of Service, in which we're looking to see what we have in common. It's not about our beliefs and the diversity of our beliefs, but it's about the commonality of our action, what we do together. So this is the Song of Service.
Thank you so much, Anne and Nick. What a beautiful opening this whole process has been, and that just really caps it and takes us into our next part, because of course we are all here in service, and that really touches my heart. Thank you so much. So moving on with the program for the day, I'd like us actually all to, before we forget, let's do our group photograph. So I'm going to ask us all to just put our cameras on for a moment. We're going to show the gallery view, and we are going to just smile very nicely at the camera so that Christine can take a photograph. Thank you so much, Christine, for doing that. Are you there? But you have to put your screen on too. Thank you. And we understand if you can't for any reason, but it would be really nice if you can.
Is everyone ready?
I think we're all ready. So, and I'm not sure how many screens there are. So we just have to keep smiling for a moment for the first one. Let us know when you're done, Christine.
I got the first one, the smiley one, and now for the funkier one, you said.
And now for the funky one. Okay, so this is kind of like an icebreaker. What I want you to do is, you're all in your little boxes, right? Just like me. So I don't know about you, but can you see that I'm like holding up the sides of my box, or maybe I'm trying to stop it from falling down, or maybe I'm like, oh, looking down at people, whatever you feel like doing. But let's just do, oh, I'm looking at Zebada. She's next to me. Ha, look at you. All right, Christine.
Okay, please hold for 1 second.
All right, we're good.
Got it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. How many screens are there? Did we all get on one screen, or was there more than one page?
There was more than one page.
Okay, so we've got that. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. I am now going to present the chairperson's report. So I'd like to just beg your indulgence while I do that. And here we are. Right, so 2020 to 2021 has been an extraordinary year. We have been challenged to new ground in our thinking, speaking, and in our doing. CTII has for the past 4 years been in a state of evolution, and the events of our times are taking us deep into the cave of self-identity. Having just celebrated our 21st anniversary, it feels as if CTII is being called into maturity, and we are being asked, who do we really want to be? It is a difficult enough question for any individual, but for our very diverse and growing collective, it represents an immense inner and outer grappling with the creative power of emergence. In a way, this has been the hardest chairperson's report to write. We continued our 2020 theme of building community and continue to work on our relationships, particularly with our colleagues of the Cape Flats Interfaith Declaration, who wonderfully worked with us to continue to build a diverse community of mutually supportive faith leaders at a time when these leaders were under siege on so many levels. Support from CTII was mostly in our presence. And here I particularly want to thank Nick and Anne Payton for the incredible gift of their dedicated presence and commitment to relationship building, healing, and constant encouragement and leadership. I will say more about our growing relationship with the Cape Flats Interfaith Declaration group at a slightly later stage. But first, to tell you what's been happening at the core with the board and the advisory council. So this year, the board grappled with issues of capacity, resources, and health. We did not have a person in the role of secretary, but shared this responsibility on a rotational basis. We redesigned our advisory council meetings to reflect more dialogue by adding focus questions to our agenda. This was extremely helpful for the board as we were able to hear the voices of our advisory council much more effectively. And the grappling included issues of governance and identity, and these we dealt with through a very helpful strategic planning session with consultant Andre Hindley, as well as with some skills transfer sessions with Sarah. Our deliberations used as a foundation the excellent communications audit that Laura Cole gifted us with a year ago. And that continues to be an important touchstone in our evolution as a group. Sadly, our treasurer, Patrick Paulser, had to step down in April due to health challenges. We thank him for his service and continue cheering from the sidelines. Patrick, you are just so one of us, and it's wonderful to have you in our midst. We were delighted to co-opt John Paul Roberts onto the board. JP represents the schools program, and it's been agreed that the schools program should always have a representative on the board. We have concluded a renewed memorandum of understanding with the Gold Trust, which administers the school program on our behalf, and we are committed to working together on the fundraising issue, which is a matter of urgency. We welcome a new CTII member to our board, Linda Everett, whose background is accounting and who represents the Wiccan faith. Linda is our new treasurer, and we look forward to a long and mutually beneficial relationship with Linda. So thank you, Linda, and welcome. The advisory board, as usual, saw a few changes, and these will be detailed shortly because, as you know, the advisory board's term of office ends today, so we'll be voting on that issue a little bit later. But most importantly, our advisory council meeting of the 2nd of December unanimously approved a short-term budget to action the areas that had been identified in our strategic planning session. As a result, and after a very careful process spearheaded by Reverends Patrick and Nima, we awarded a short-term consultancy to master's student Christine Diampavisa, who is acting in a secretarial role as well as managing administrative processes and communications. So we are most blessed to have retained her services, and we offer heartfelt thanks to you, Christine, for your diligent efforts, including your help in putting together this AGM. We are also in the process of negotiating an agreement with an experienced fundraiser, and we look forward to sharing outcomes in the months ahead. Another first for CTII, we've got an intern. Pippa Jones was introduced to us by One Spirit Interfaith Seminary of New York and is completing her master's in interfaith relations through Vrije Universiteit in Netherlands. Pippa arrived on the 2nd of January and has very quickly become an integral part of our interfaith community. Our gratitude to Imam Dr. Rashid Omar for stepping in to mentor Pippa through her academic requirements, and to everyone who has engaged so open-heartedly with this woman whose energy reminds us of what we are here to do. Pippa is currently extending her visa and engaging in an oral history project, which she will tell you more about. And obviously you've seen already, she worked with Zebada to bring us this wonderful opening ceremony. Onto the projects, the schools project. That's going to be covered in a separate presentation on the agenda. And I would just like to highly commend the entire facilitation team on their adaptability and creative ability to work with the circumstances in which they find themselves rather than working against those circumstances. We can all take heart and an important lesson from these way showers. And I do mention them in the financial report, which I will get to a little bit later, but I particularly just want to commend Sarah, JP, Izzy, and Lauren, as well as your support team or facilitators, Babs, Rachel, and Imad. And many of you will recognize some of those names as people who've gone through our schools project and have gone on to become facilitators. How wonderful is that? Further to that, our Heritage Day bus tour, teachers tours, and Open Hearts, Open Minds, regular items on the CTII calendar did not take place in the reporting period due to the changes that COVID-19 brought into our lives. However, necessity is the mother of invention after all, and we have some exciting innovations planned for the year ahead, but I'm going to have to save those for next year's report. So what have we done? When President Cyril Ramaphosa asked the country to write to the presidency and say what was needed on the ground, we did. We said, Mr. President, the one group that you can count on to hold your communities together in these challenging times is your faith leaders. Many of them have lost all their income when gatherings were disallowed, but they have continued against all odds to care for your people, to feed them both in body and in spirit. When a child is lost or hurt, it is the pastor that the mother runs to first. When someone is shot or has experienced any of the many daily traumas that fill the Cape Flats, the first person the community turns to is often the faith leader. That same faith leader who receives no support but must always find it in themselves to provide for others. So we asked our president to consider a stipend for faith leaders as a gesture of goodwill, if nothing else, but unfortunately, we were not heard. So Cape Flats Interfaith Group has therefore been by far the greatest focus of CTII's action over the past year. We are indebted to our associate organization, SAFC, for stepping in with much needed support during the time of the pandemic. They have given resources, data to keep faith leaders connected, a Zoom platform for regular meetings, and a great deal of resilience building training in eco-justice, including food security and energy issues. Francesca de Gasperis is the Executive Director of SAFC. She's here tonight. I just want to extend such a vote of thanks to you, Francesca, and to the entire team. So I hope that our collaboration with SAFC is one that will continue to evolve and flourish in the years ahead. This focus on relationship building and connecting people has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And I'm delighted to welcome some of my colleagues from the Cape Flats here tonight, many of whom have become new members of CTII. 3 weeks after our AGM of 2020, during which the passion of Pastor Dan Swartz of the Cape Flats Interfaith Group was heard loudly, clearly, calling for inclusion and collaboration, we lost Pastor Dan to COVID-19. In a way, the memory of both Pastor Dan and Wilfred Alcock, who were co-founders of the Cape Flats Interfaith Group and who both passed during 2020, continues to inspire and motivate me to continue the work that we are engaged in. And of course, the work that we're engaged in is largely dialogue. Dialogue is one of our strengths, and we continue to participate in many platforms or on many platforms. And recently we welcomed a new Catholic Muslim forum at the Al-Ubaid Mosque on Freedom Day, 27th of April. So we've continued to participate with a number of organizations such as the Ahmadiyya Jamaat, HWPL, SAFC, Parliament of the World's Religions, and many others to promote a spirit of dialogue. As trust grows, our questions to each other deepen. COVID-19 has taught us that the whole world is our neighbor. Taking our events online has meant extending our circle to include the entire globe and learning that as much as we are learning, others are learning from us. I have to tell you about Reconciliation Day Peace Walk, the Reconciliation Day Interfaith Walk in District 6, 2020, December 16th. We went online this year and we collaborated with the Phoenix Settlement in Durban, represented by Ella Gandhi, and Lily's Leaf in Johannesburg to bring an integrated national unity to this significant day. Our thanks must go to all who collaborated so generously to create an event that we can all be very proud of, and in particular to Reverend Laurie Gaum, who spearheaded that project so very capably. Thank you, Laurie. Kudos to you. And then it was February. 7 sacred days went online for World Interfaith Harmony Week from the 1st to the 7th. So my biggest take home from World Interfaith Harmony Week was that under all circumstances, everywhere, interfaith engagement is a deeply valuable tool for community and relationship building, for peace building. We were quite ambitious, maybe too much so, in our programming, and have looked at ways to spread things a little more evenly next year. Our first event was a first ever in the world, bringing together all the first prize winners of the World Interfaith Harmony Week from the time of its inception, when His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan initiated that prize in 2013, right up to 2020. We followed that event with an engagement with a former third prize winner, Interfaith Glasgow, in a transatlantic conversation including New York, Glasgow, and Cape Town. And then the John Oliver Memorial Lecture took place as a panel discussion of women faith leaders on the 3rd of February. After that, we supported both the Cape SA Jewish Board of Deputies and Religions for Peace events on the 4th of February. And on Friday the 5th, Claremont Main Road Mosque's Jamua was our Friday observance. On Saturday the 6th, we co-hosted a very moving online Earth Prayer online with SAFC. And we ended the week with our iconic Prayers for the City on Sunday the 7th. I want here to express eternal gratitude to Gordon Oliver, who conceptualized that event many years ago and who has guided it into the landmark occasion that it is today. Thanks also to the Cape SA Jewish Board of Deputies for assisting with sponsorship for data to enable many to attend who may not otherwise have been able to do so. Interfaith certainly is something that we cannot do on our own. So strictly speaking, Human Rights Day, March 21st of 2021, falls into next year's report. But I have to mention it because of Nick Payton's lovely video that he produced ahead of a small COVID-19 observant gathering at the Lutheran Church in Belgravia in Athlone. You can find that video on our website. And if you want to know about interfaith, I really do encourage you to watch it. I'm hoping that we might have a minute to watch a snippet of it today, but I don't know if time is going to allow us to do that. So in conclusion, we are still standing. Interfaith remains significant as a uniting force in our communities, and we are grateful for every single one of you who brings your energy, your insights, and your love into this peace-building space. Interfaith takes every one of us. Thank you for being here. And that is the conclusion of the chairperson's report for 2021. I need to ask if there is somebody who would like to propose acceptance of that report. Christine, I'm going to have to ask you if you can see any hands going up because I can't. I see John Paul's hand and I see Mary's hand and I also see Tony's.
and Gwen Yusrib.
Thank you so much, Christine. That's great. If you can just note those, I appreciate that. Time is running short, so I'm going to need to just move straight into the financial report. And I'm going to share my screen shortly, but just before I do, I just want to give you a slight introduction to it. There's a whole reason that I'm doing the financial report and not the treasurer, and I'll tell you about that now. So after the AGM of 2020, Reverend Patrick Paulser very generously agreed to take on the role of treasurer, although that was outside his scope of experience, as it is outside the scope of mine. But between the three of us, Patrick and our dedicated and long-suffering bookkeeper, Louise Samuels, and myself, we found our way forward, hampered, of course, by lockdowns and health concerns that plagued us throughout the year. So unfortunately, due to his own health challenges, Patrick found himself obliged to step down with immediate effect in April. And fortunately, Louise has been able to hold space and literally had all our books of account ready to send to the auditors on the 1st of March, literally a week before giving birth to her first baby. So she's already back in full stride and appears not to have skipped a beat, but that means that I get to do this because even though we do have a new treasurer, Linda Everett, I can hardly ask her to join I can hardly ask her to join CTII today and present the financials today. So, so it falls to me to actually have this privilege of presenting the financials. I also want to tell you a little bit more about Linda. Linda is a priestess, as I said, in the Wicca tradition and holds a BCom in accounting and internal auditing. She has worked as a freelance accountant for a number of years, but her passion is actually wedding ceremonies. And Linda is also a registered marriage officer. Linda, could you just put on your camera and possibly your microphone and just wave at the gathering so that they know who you are, please.
Okay. Hi, thank you, Berry. Yes, it's actually wonderful being here. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I am priestess of the Carillion nativist tradition, and I have been registered at Home Affairs as a marriage officer for 11 years now. And as you said, it is my passion. I absolutely do love doing the weddings. I have been accountant. I was one of about 10 accountants at Virgin Active prior, and then I was doing freelance accounting for quite a few years, which I'm still doing bits of to help pay the bills, because the weddings are always up and down. Yes, so I'm looking forward to our collaboration now, and I'm joining you lovely people with this wonderful vision that you have.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. That's wonderful. And yeah, I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you so much. So the purpose of a financial report is to assure our community that we have enough funds to continue for the year ahead. And fortunately, we are able to say yes to that. We are able to keep going, thanks largely to our 2019 prize money from World Interfaith Harmony Week. And it is a measurement of the financial health of the organization as well. Obviously, the financial report is a measurement of that health. However, I do want to say it is imperative that we continue to make fundraising an important focus for the current fiscal year and beyond. So I'm going to share some general remarks about the financial activities of CTII, and at this point is where I'm going to share my screen. Here we are. Here are the financials, the audited financials for the year ended 28th of February, 2021. And as we head into the first page of actual information, actual money information, lots of writing. So sorry that okay, there we are. Okay, so you can see that there is a dramatic decline in income for the year 1st of March 2020 to 28th of February 2021. And that's largely due to COVID and the reallocation by some of our major funders of their social spend. They were obviously filling in emergency gaps created by job losses and other economic potholes that appeared due to the pandemic. And sad for us, but that really had to happen. So there it is, that dramatic decline in income. So during the fiscal year, we lost all the expected revenue that would normally have been generated by events such as our Heritage Day bus tour, our ad hoc bus tours, and 7 Sacred Days in Cape Town, as well as some planned student tours from the semester at sea. But between the 1st of March 2020 and 28th of February, we can safely say that almost 100,000 Rand of projected income was lost. And while this has complicated our planning and made life uncomfortable, we remain immensely grateful for the funding we did receive, which has enabled at least our flagship project, the Marlene Silbert Schools Interfaith Intercultural Program, to continue to operate. So we'll hear more about that from the school's report later. But again, just a vote of gratitude to Marlene Silbert, whose fundraising work over the past years really enabled the continuation of the excellent work of the schools program during this time of crisis. And once again, acknowledgement to the full team of facilitators, Sarah, JP, Izzy, Lauren, and then Babs, Rachel, and Imad as well. They were able to really reimagine their program to accommodate a very different and uncertain financial paradigm, but we do continue to work together on the funding requirements going forward. So specific line items in the statement, in the audited financial statement that may draw your attention include, I've lost it a little bit now. Oh yeah, membership fee, the top line here, the membership fee, that's actually lovely. It's a great upward trend and we're very grateful. We hope that that trend will continue. Membership is going to be a focus area going forward, and the Advisory Council have recently been looking at how we can make together with the board, the Advisory Council have been looking at how we can make the member experience more memorable without losing our commitment to inclusivity. Special thanks to those who have responded to the Each One Help One campaign. And the next step is Each One Bring One. And then moving down to donations in. As you can see, donations were a lot lower in 2021 than the prior year. But also remember that that prior year is not really comparable because it does include the World Interfaith Harmony Week prize money. And our portion of that prize money amounted, if I'm correct, to about 186,000 Rand. So, so just be mindful of that when you're comparing these two year on year. Then going down to project expenditure. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's right. Going down to project expenditure, you're going to notice that the project expenditure, there's quite a large shortfall between project expenditure. This is income here, as you can see where I'm indicating, and then down to expenditure, events and projects over here. So in other words, what that means is that we spent quite a bit more than we got in. However, the main cause of that deficit was due to the grants lost due to COVID-19 reallocations by some of our funders. And almost all of that expenditure was approved and budgeted during the previous year. And the fact that the schools program had enough in the bank to continue to operate, despite this shortfall, was due almost entirely to the foresight of Marlene Silbert, who had previously not only raised enough funding to carry us through the lean times, but also arranged that the school's project funding should be ring-fenced and therefore not used for any other projects. I am going to move on now to the administration fees, and I will give some time for questions at the end of this. Administration fees, they are up 7,000 Rand, and that was the February invoice for Christine. That represents our administrator that we have retained on a consultancy basis. Consultancy fees also going down to consulting fees here, also up from 2,000 in the previous year to 7,450. That is due to the strategic planning assistance for the board with Andre Hindley, as well as some legal advice regarding the revision of our constitution before the AGM of last year, but obviously that falls into this fiscal year. So, and then I do want to tell you about the donations out, because you'll see here, there's a line here for donations, and that is donations that went out, up from 0 to just over 5,000. United Religions Initiative, there's a story here. The URI gifted us with 1,670 Rand for Mandela Day 2020. The board decided to use that to support a Verge Garden project for the homeless. And the people who created that Verge Garden, they had gone on to establish a food garden for a local children's home. So we really wanted to support them in that. But in the spirit of sharing and caring, CTII board also decided to match URI's generosity by gifting an equal amount to a group of unemployed women who are making masks for many pregnant women who are arriving at maternity hospital without that very small but very essential item. We also received a gift from Pippa Jones, who was in the Netherlands at the time, who asked us to use the money to finance food parcels. So we purchased 10 boxes of fresh vegetables and bread over the course of 10 weeks, gifting them to families on the Cape Flats who were immensely grateful for that relief. This also helped to support the newly established Women's Farming Cooperative as they worked to establish their sustainable permaculture farming business in Ocean View. So it was this whole little circular economy thing going on. It was way fun. Employee costs. I'm going to move on to the next line. Employee costs up from 12,000 to 15,000. I can just hear you all asking me, what is that? Well, actually, that was about me, because that's chairperson stipends for the previous year at 3,000 Rand per month. So that was the previous year. And I actually, when I secured full-time employment, I actually chose to decline that stipend. So I no longer take that stipend. Therefore, the budgeted expense of 36,000 for the year has actually, we've saved CTII 21,000 Rand, basically, is what I'm telling you. So that was that piece. I've spoken about the event. You're going to ask me why there are 2 lines here. This line of events actually refers to meetings, in-person meetings, particularly specifically with our bookkeeper. And I'm not sure, it could very easily have been included in the events and projects. So that's what that's about. Office expenses stayed the same. And I think that really takes me to my closing. So the prior year was dominated by the receipt of the prize money for World Interfaith Harmony Week, of which 183,000 accrued to CTII. And it was and continues to be used in a variety of projects, particularly our administrative and governance projects at this time. The current year reflects a return to relative normality, so figures must be compared with this in mind. And the final result of the year's operations was a loss of 87,785 Rand, with the main reasons being what I have outlined. And as a result of the deficit for the 2021 financial year, the balance of funds on hand has been reduced by 87,785 to 168,724 as at 28th of February. So this is more than adequate to finance ongoing operations and is not cause for concern as long as we take the necessary actions for fundraising in the current financial year to generate funding for the year after and beyond. And that concludes the financial report. I am happy to take questions from the floor. I'm not seeing any hands. Christine, could you help me? If you see any hands, any questions, and you are welcome to put questions into the chat if you like.
No hands and no questions so far, Dev.
In that case, that's amazing. Linda, I hope that you're very proud of me. Patrick, I hope that you're very proud of me too. So in that case, I would like to ask if one of our members would please propose accepting the financial report. And we need a proposer and a seconder.
Perry, I will propose the acceptance of that report.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm moved and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. And a seconder, please.
I can second it.
Sarah, was that your voice? Ah,
Yeah,
super. Thank you
me.
so much. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. We are now going to vote on the auditors for the next year. If we could just bring up that poll, Nima. I think I might have messed up the order somewhat, but if we could just please do the poll for the auditors. So there are 35 members, and only if you are a paid up member should you be voting. So I don't think it matters that one person who isn't a member has voted, and that's absolutely fine, because we know that we have 35 members, and I have had a quick look around the room. I can absolutely state with certainty that there is definitely a quorum. At least 30 of those members are actually in the room tonight, which is pretty wonderful. So thank you so much, everybody. We can end the polling. Oh, wait, no, we can't end the polling yet. But we only had actually 14 people. Okay, so we do need a few more.
Reverend Berry, while we're waiting,
Yes.
I did see Shlomo's hand up a moment ago, and I wonder if he wanted to make a comment. I did see his hand up, waving rather invitingly.
I simply wanted to say I support a very fine presentation of the financials. She thinks she can't do it, but she did it magnificently. No questions, no problems. Brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that vote of confidence, and I'm certainly not going to be leaving my day job, so don't worry. This is it was hard work, and it was quite a lot of fun to learn it. So thank you so much. Okay, I think that we should stop the polling now. 21 out of 21 people who have voted have actually said yes. For some reason, I can't vote, Nima. I don't know why.
You can't. We'll vote on your behalf. And Colin has his hand up as well.
Oh, and that's a whole important piece. Colin, yes, please.
I have proxy for Nita to vote too.
Thank you for mentioning that. I actually completely forgot to announce the proxies. I also hold the proxy for Jenny, who sends her apologies. So Nima, if you would please count that as a positive vote as well. Myself and Jenny. Thank you. All right, has that counted? Are we awesome? Thank you so much. That's wonderful. The auditors were very patient with me, and I'm very grateful to them. Nick and Anne, please would you rather share your voices, because I think everybody must be tired of mine now.
Well, we're going to try and make that dramatic U-turn from accounting to music. This is a song that's been part of our personal journey for quite some time, quite a number of years. It's from a community in France called the These community. It's called De Noche, and I just wanted to say one quick thing about it. It's about unknowing, and in the interfaith world, when you come from a faith tradition that you've been faithful to and have your identity in it, it's often very, very difficult to find your feet, and we have to accept that there's quite a lot of darkness and unknowing even in this journey of interfaith. So this is a song called De Noche. And we yeah, it's probably the one song over the last 10 years that's most spoken to our hearts. So we are privileged to share it with you. De noche, haremos de noche, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. De noche, haremos de noche, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra. By night we hasten in darkness to search for living water. Only our thirst leads us onward. Only our thirst leads us onward. By night we hasten in darkness to search for living water. Only our thirst leads us onward. Only our thirst leads us onward. De noche, haremos de noche, que para encontrar la fuente, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra, solo la sed nos alumbra.
That was absolutely stunning. Thank you so much. You've just really brought the energy back into a very special place for us. Thank you so much, Anne and Nick. That's wonderful. I almost want to just stay in that moment with you, but I know that we can't. And I'm going to ask Pippa to present her report on what she's been doing.
Thank you, Barry. And before I start, I want to say a huge thank you for steering the ship so capably and so wonderfully in this last year, especially during unprecedented global events. So thank you very much, and amazing reports. Well done. I'm going to keep mine very, very, very brief because I'm aware that there's a lot of talking and there's a lot more to get through. So it really just boils down to three things. As part of my internship, I do have to create a feedback report, which I'm going to do in conjunction with my supervisor at my university in the Netherlands and alongside Reverend Berry. And it's really just about my reflections of what I can see in terms of what I think is working, and maybe offer suggestions of what might be helpful for the coming years. So we will be working on that in this next month. June is already almost upon us, if you can believe. I imagine that will be available to everybody. Barry will confirm that with you. On a similar note, I'm doing my thesis and I'm doing research into how interfaith, specifically here in the Western Cape, and even more specifically in areas such as the Cape Flats, be of growing and continued relevance to the ever-pressing needs that we find ourselves in, and how we as an interfaith community can meet those needs effectively and really continue the incredible legacy that Interfaith has here, especially in Cape Town. So again, once that is done and dusted, and the university will allow me to publish it, I will give it to Barry, and you are very welcome to read it. I think it's going to be based on a series of about 14 to 16 very short interviews from people whose voices and experience I think will be very valuable. So it would be an honor for me for you to read it. And of course, I welcome your feedback on it too. Which I think segues very nicely into the final thing, which is one thing that came from the beginnings of my time here and all of the wonderful opportunities that people like Barry afforded me, is of course I was talking to people who have made this very organization possible, CTII, and in doing so have realized that we are in the midst of people whose legacies have made all of this possible, and from whose experience and lessons we would be remiss in not learning from, not honoring, and not in some way finding a way to record it so that others further down the line can see exactly what can be done with people who are, even in the midst of, as you were in those days of the liberation struggle, to be able to come together and birth interfaith, not just here in Cape Town, not just here in South Africa, but actually the very first in the world, in fact, dating right back to the early to mid 70s. So I put it initially to Barry and then to the board, and we have approval. We're going to move forward with what we're calling the Cape Town Interfaith Initiative Oral History Project. And we're going to start capturing the stories and the experiences of people, as I say, whose lives and legacies have made all of this possible. So I'm very excited. It's one of the main reasons that I'm looking to extend my visa, and it's going to keep me very busy and very inspired in the next 12 to 18 months. So that's it. Thank you, Barry. None of this would have been possible without you. So thank you, and thank you all.
Thank you, Pippa. Like I said, I think interfaith is something you cannot do on your own. So it really takes all of us. And I think I speak for all of us when I say we are so delighted to have you here. Thank you. And that's such an exciting project going forward. It's really going to be a grounding for CTII as we build into the future. So unfortunately, I'm going to shake up the program a little bit because we are running out of time, and our keynote speaker actually has to go off to take a service shortly. So I'm going to ask JP if you
Barry, you're muted.
Barry, you're muted.
Barry.
Goodness me, I wonder how I did that. So sorry, but thank you so much for letting me know. I'm going to ask Riaan de Villiers, the Dominee of Groote Kerk, to bring us his thoughts on the science of KINDOM, K-I-N-D-O-M, and let us know what he thinks about the interface of advocacy and education within that context. Riaan, are you with us? Welcome.
Hi, Barry. Good evening, everybody. Dear chairperson, members of CTII, honored guests and friends, brothers and sisters, thank you for inviting me to deliver this keynote address. As Barry just spoke, I realized that I might have just got it totally wrong, but I will, I will give it a go. Because I've been asked to reflect on the theme of KINDOM, one city, one heart. And I thought during this week, I just thought about it, and whatever came up in my heart, I decided I wanted to share with you. So I would like to start, first of all, by reflecting on my own journey with CTII that started just over 2 years ago when we gathered together in the Groote Kerk to mourn the deaths of those who lost their lives during a racist terrorist attack and religious hate crime while they were meeting for prayer in a mosque in Christchurch. In my own heart, at that stage, I also felt the need and the urgency to gather together with fellow human brothers and sisters from different faiths to speak out against this atrocious act committed in the name of religion against people of faith, and to work together to live, demonstrate and promote justice, love and peace, which is at the core of the different faiths that is represented here at CTII. It is then that I also met you guys, new friends and colleagues through CTII, and ever since I have experienced and felt the kinship of fellow pilgrims seeking justice and working together for peace in our city and the world we live in. So that during this time, I was also meeting beautiful and amazing people and carrying each other's burdens in the process. I'm grateful and blessed to be on this journey with each of you, and I've been enriched and blessed by your presence and influence on my life and also my worldview. It's also during my own hardship and troubles that you have been supportive and shown me much love. I thank you also for your love, your kindness, and your generosity. So I thought if we were to start seeking places where kinship and loving hearts can be found in this beautiful city of ours, then we can just start by looking around us in this organization we call Cape Town Interfaith Initiative. With this in mind, I thought further about places where we can also find in public places in this beautiful city of ours, where we can find friendly and good, kind-hearted people in the everyday life in Cape Town. Now, I know all of us will probably say, yes, come to our place of worship and meet friendly and kind people there. And it might be, and it certainly should be so. But those that usually come to our churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples are mainly there because they are bound and brought together by the specific faith and creed as they meet there. So I was looking for places, public places, where we can come together with people across the different faiths, and also the boundaries that is set up by different faiths and religions in this world. So there's one place in this beautiful city of Cape Town where I think you can meet the friendliest people. And I wonder if you know where this could be. I have discovered recently, or for the past few years, that on the slopes of the Hurikwago, or the mountain of the sea, as it is called by the Khoi people, or Table Mountain as we know it today, which we can also call the heart of our city, as our city is in a certain sense built around it. It also carries the footprints of our ancestors. When you go for a walk on the many paths that lead to the top, you find a lot of smiles along the way, was my experience, and hopefully for you as well when you have walked on one of Table Mountain's many footpaths. These smiles are big smiles and little smiles, exhausted and tired smiles, fit smiles, hopeful smiles, sense of achievement smiles. That is my favorite one, if I can reach the top. And then also a lot of friendly small talk. I've been offered water and something to eat along the way. And I've shared my water with someone else. Why is it so on the mountain? I was wondering. Why do we rush past each other during the day in the city, on the streets? Is it because when we go up the mountain, we have journeyed in the same way? Is it because we have faced the same challenge and the same struggle to get to the top? Is it because we give and receive while climbing together and passing one another on the journey? We give and receive advice. We share dangers. We encourage each other. It's only a short distance. You are almost at the top. Sometimes that's a little white lie, but it motivates us and gets us to continue further. We are informed about obstacles. You find people who are going up or down the mountain, they are resting, they are reflecting on life, on the nature around them. They are sharing, they are assisting, and they are pushing themselves to new limits. Also, have I experienced that when we get to the top of the mountain and we reflect, looking from above down at the city, when the skyscrapers look much smaller, when you're on top of the mountain, you get a better understanding of how small you are and how big God must be, how big this creation is. You also get to see the bigger picture and where you fit into this wonder of creation and life that we all share. This symbol of climbing the mountain, or metaphor, has also encouraged me to remember that we need to climb mountains together, literally. And thank you, Nick, for your initiative in that way, getting us to go on walks and praying together. And also figuratively, we need to rest and we need to reflect together on the gifts that we have received to share in this life and world. We are not only blessed by beautiful mountain ranges from Cape Town to the Great Karoo, but also in between these mountains, along the roads, in the small towns and the villages, we find the most beautiful and warm people who is made in God's image, the image of love. When we talk about climbing mountains, we are also reminded that we are cursed by other mountains that we are facing. We are facing mountains of inequality, mountains of prejudice, mountains of injustice, mountains of crime, mountains of corruption, and the mountain of ecological crisis. As an African city, we need to start climbing these mountains together in the African spirit of Ubuntu. It starts with us. It is us that need to understand the principles of Ubuntu in our faith tradition anew and to start to live it, demonstrating it to our communities and teaching it to our children. I am because you are. We have a hymn in our church that says, give us a fresh understanding of brotherly and sisterly love that is real. When we climb these mountains together, may we also tap into that fresh understanding of brotherly and sisterly love that is real. We have adopted to technology. Look, here we are doing an AGM online, everybody tuned in, and we've managed to implement and adjust it into our lives. Now, with the huge possibilities technology offers us, also aware of the dangers of the divisive use of social media, we need to find each other as brothers and sisters. The challenges is huge when you try to work for peace. And sure, you might upset a lot of people. Remember, when you work for peace, it is not in the interest of everyone. The machinery of war is a lucrative business. The underworld doesn't want peace. Terror and fear is the way by which they operate. But we must remain steadfast in the belief that love casts out fear. We need to work together for the common good of our creation and our people. We need to practice what it means and experiment with working together for peace in our communities. As President Nelson Mandela said in 1999, selfishness, corruption, a lack of community spirit, and neighborly service, these are the spiritual enemies of our efforts to build a new society in which we can all live together in decency. And he continues to say, it would be superfluous for me to elaborate on the role of faith communities in this task of moral reconstruction. You will know it much better than I do. What I can say is that the way in which the different churches and religions work together and reach out to each other will set an example to the rest of the country. We have the opportunity to set that example. We need therefore to continue to encourage and challenge more of our colleagues and our brothers and sisters in our different religious traditions to also start looking beyond their own faith circle and outside the fence of our own places of worship, and start asking ourselves and our congregants and the broader faith communities challenging questions like, why is it that we can fly halfway across the world and visit other faiths or other faiths places of worship, but we can't visit the church, the mosque, the synagogue, or the temple on our doorstep and meet each other there? Why can people of different faiths make money together, but they can't make peace together? Why do we drive to go and eat at a culturally themed restaurant, but we cannot break bread at our own table with people from a different culture? How can we say we love the same city, but we struggle to love the city's diverse population? We live in this beautiful, diverse world, which we stand in awe of the glory of creation. We are stunned by confessing that God is so much bigger, so much gracious, loving than we can ever imagine or behold. God is ultimately good, but then when it comes to the practice of our faith, we sometimes try to get a grip on God, to fit in with our own understanding, and ultimately limit God and his love for the world. Justice, love, and peace is central to all our religions. With the recent death of the Swiss Catholic priest and theologian Hans Küng on 6 April 2021, I was drawn again to the Declaration of Global Ethic that was authored by Hans Küng and was adopted by the Parliament of World Religions. We declare, we are interdependent. Each of us depends on the well-being of the whole. And so we have respect for the community of living beings, for people, animals, and plants, and for the preservation of earth, the air, water, and soil. We take individual responsibility for all we do, all our decisions, actions, and failures to act have consequences. We must treat others as we wish to treat us, as we wish others to treat us. We make a commitment to respect life and dignity, individuality and diversity, so that every person is treated humanely, without exception. We must have patience and acceptance. We must be able to forgive, learning from the past, but never allowing ourselves to be enslaved by memories of hate. Opening our hearts to one another, we must sink our narrow differences for the cause of our world community, practicing a culture of solidarity and relatedness. We consider humankind our family. We must strive to be kind and generous. We must not live for ourselves alone, but should also serve others, never forgetting the children, the aged, the poor, the suffering, the disabled, the refugees, and the lonely. No person should ever be considered or treated as a second-class citizen, or be exploited in any way whatsoever. There should be equal partnership between men and women. We must not commit any kind of sexual immorality. We must put behind us all forms of domination or abuse. We must strive for a just social and economic order in which everyone has an equal chance to reach full potential as a human being. We must speak and act truthfully and with compassion, dealing fairly with all and avoiding prejudice and hatred. We must not steal. We must move beyond the dominance of greed for power, prestige, money, and consumption to make a just and peaceful world. Earth cannot be changed for the better unless the consciousness of individuals is changed first. We pledge to increase our awareness by disciplining our minds, by meditation, by prayer, or by positive thinking. Without risk and the readiness to sacrifice, there can be no fundamental change in our situation. Therefore, we commit ourselves to this global ethic, to understanding one another, and to socially beneficially, peace-fostering, and nature-friendly ways of living. We invite all people, whether religious or not, to do the same. May God grant us therefore the wisdom, the courage, the strength and the heart for this journey together in our city. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the journey ahead, and take great courage and inspiration in knowing that you are my fellow pilgrims in the city of ours. Thank you.
Riaan, thank you. I knew when I asked you that I had the right person. And as we plot our way forward, we look to voices like yours to really keep us on track, to remind us what interfaith engagement is all about, and to remind us exactly what it is that we're trying to achieve by reaching out to our brothers and sisters in all situations. I really appreciate your message so much, and thank you for joining us with that. That's my heart to yours, all of our hearts together. And yes, you preach like a mountain. You really do. It's amazing. Fabulous.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Riaan, we know that we're going to have to leave now, and we do excuse you with our love and thanks. But I am going to ask the people who are gathered here to just think about if Riaan's words have inspired you, and if there's anything that you think that we as an interfaith group should be doing going forward, then please just put it in the chat so that we can hold on to that and allow your voice also to guide us. So thank you so much for that. Blessings. So we are going to move on now to, let me just see that I can see all of you. Yes, and David Lipschitz, you're absolutely right. We have all the interfaith in Cape Town. It's absolutely amazing. And when we do reach out to others around the world, we learn that they're learning from us too. Amazing. So we're going back to the program now, and I'm going to invite John Paul Roberts, JP, who is the board member representing the youth program, to step forward and give us your report on what's been happening with the schools program. Thank you, JP.
Thank you so much, Betty. I hope you can all hear me nice and clearly. Thank you for the opportunity to share about the program and how everything went off last year. And so just with that, I'm just going to share my screen as I got just a presentation, and hopefully I do not take too long. And so when we think about the interfaith program, one is that, speaking into the introduction of Marlene Silbert program, is that it's a grade 10 and grade 11 program. It's a 2-year program that brings children from 9 different schools that come from different backgrounds, different economic classes, different religions, and bringing them into a safe space where they can come and learn about each other, discover their own identity, but also to share about commonalities that they might find in one another, so that we can foster relationships and also build bridges towards peace and compassion. And so this program goes to a process of where we have a 5-day camp. There are monthly workshops, there are educational outings, and then there are interfaith tours where we visit various houses of faith and we discuss various topics. And during this whole process, there is also a twinning program where the learners kind of get into the footsteps of their fellow peers and see what schooling is like for them. And going on, our year in 2020 started off with our grade 10 camp, which was a 5-day camp which happened at MISPA. And this camp is like the foundation setting for the rest of the program, where these learners come to speak to each other, they come to form relationships, and in so doing, there's a phase of bubbles being burst, if I could say it in that sense. It's a means whereby them as individuals can have their perspectives broadened as they engage with one another. And so there's often times where they have discussions, but there's also times where they share about their religious practice. And so broadening our understanding and our perspective about each other. And so as we see in the pictures and the images that we see, that we try to foster a means of inclusion, but also a means of team working, knowing that we come from different backgrounds, we come from different settings and economic classes and races, but yet we are still able to work together towards a common goal. And so as this kind of meshing of one another together, to realize that when we look beyond our differences, we can see that there is hope that we can build a better tomorrow. And one of the fundamental parts of our camp and our program as a whole is to have what we then have as dialogue groups. And in this dialogue groups is a time where the learners are speaking together about topics that challenge them, and also about learning specific skills that then they could then take on towards their leadership role. And we think about topics such as compassionate listening, and where they listen to each other's stories. We talk about the activity of the River of Life, where they share with each other their story of how they got to where they are at the moment. And in this dialogue groups, they kind of get to know one another, get to know each other's point of view. And as well, we teach them the aspect of dialogue, knowing that it's not about us winning each other over, but it's about having an open conversation so that we can come to understand our brothers and sisters. And from the student evaluation, this is just one of the comments that was made from one of the students. It was interesting to hear others' thoughts and opinions, and liberating to share my thoughts and opinions in a safe space. And that is the fundamental thing of what we try to create as part of the program. Safe spaces where people can come, share their opinions and thoughts, and felt like they are listened to, but as well as to take in the opinions and thoughts of others. And so after camp took place, we were then struck with a pandemic that rocked our world and our way of doing things. And so with that had to come a means of adaptation. We had to think about new ways of taking the program forward, as we weren't allowed to have our monthly meetings in person. We weren't allowed to have our faith tours. And so with that, we had to adapt to an online program and an online connecting platform. And so our monthly meetings shifted to a Zoom meeting. It shifted to our dialogue groups being done over WhatsApp. And it shifted our content to being what was put on a Genially site, so that the content that we shared, the learners could go back and research and read upon. And so with our online sessions and our Zoom sessions, it was such a great experience, because as we gathered online, we were of course able to talk a myriad of topics. And our first topic was the impact of COVID, and seeing the severity of how it impacted separate individuals depending on their context. And so allowing us to then just also focus on this aspect of power and privilege. And we focused on youth activism, social justice, human rights, climate justice, and peace and conflict. But the nice part about and the benefit of the online platform was, again, our ability to introduce an international audience. And so we had international guest speakers, but we also had our local guest speakers. We were able to invite alumni from the program, so previous students who were able to come and share what they are doing in the aspect of peace building. But not only that, we were allowed to have Ignatius France, who was on the Justice Desk, who led our session on human rights and what is our role as citizens in looking after the human rights of others. And we had our international guest, Isaac Thomas, from the URI Global Council trustee, who came to share with us about peace building and the efforts that they're doing there in this home country. And so being online, it was a challenge. There was much challenges where we had to think about data and accessibility. And this, we were able to support students by providing them with this data, thanks to the funding that we had in reserve, allowing students to be there. This also, we had to engage with parents to make sure that parents had mobile devices or a laptop to allow students to be with us on the weekends. And so these sessions had to move to a Sunday afternoon where students were able to join us as opposed to our Monday afternoons. And so not only did we focus on just having talks, but we also motivated and moved the young people to think about young people as active citizens and thinking about activism, and not only thinking about what seniors are doing, but what are local young people doing in spaces of activism, knowing that in their age, at their age, they are also able to make a difference. And so one of the projects that we ran was a youth activism campaign where they went to go research a movement that inspired them that was led by young people. And this movement we then turned into social media posts, and then we shared it on our Facebook page and our Instagram account. And so it was also a means of recognizing the good work of young people within our communities and acknowledging them. And some of them acknowledged us back for sharing the work that they are doing, which was such a highlight for us. And so these are the adaptations that we had to take into account. And one thing that was also a highlight for our program was that at the end of the year, we would have the grand closing ceremony with the city, where there would be a spread laid out and parents would be invited and all shareholders would be there. Unfortunately, last year, that was not a possibility because of COVID. And so with the help of the teachers, we were able to print the certificates and go and hand it out and do a presentation at the schools. And so we weren't able to meet all together, but it was such a nice feeling to go into the spaces of their schools and meet them where they are. Especially after a long time of not being able to see them in person, to then go and then meet them at the school and hand them their certificates. It was a beautiful moment. And so with part of the program, we know that it starts in grade 10, but it also carries over to grade 11. And unfortunately, last year with COVID happening in the pandemic and the lockdown, the grade 11 tutoring program had to be put on hold. And this was very unfortunate for our grade 11s at the time. However, we are very happy to again be able to continue that program this year, due to the Amy Beale Foundation saying they're willing to accept tutors again. And so not only that, we are thinking about what is the action plan for grade 11s to get into a place of being active citizens in creating peace building initiatives, to knowing that as much as I have learned, there is much for me to give back. And so we are at the process of thinking about what grade 11s can do, and what beyond the program. And so there was much learnings that came as we thought about the program of last year and thinking about the adaptation that we had to take. And so we did a SWOT analysis, and there was much that was learned. I mean, the adaptability of having to take the program online and thinking of our field was much of a strength. We were then able to develop new content in that way, researching and getting videos about intersectionality. There was also a great teamwork ethic amongst all facilitators and as the program coordinators. The monthly sessions also led to much deep conversations. And in hindsight, one must say that online does not allow you enough time for the amount of discussion that young people can have. However, we are thankful for all that they shared with us. And so our program and team capacity was very limited in last year. But we are thankful for all those facilitators that came out to every session that was part of our camp and made it all worthwhile and made the experience all worthwhile for the learners. And so some of the opportunities that we discovered as making the program go online was, of course, that now there was a broader network. Now being part of the URI, United Religions Initiative, and also being part of CTII, we are now able to bring more people to the program, international guest speakers to be a part of the program. And that was something that was even touched on camp when we had our partners of Bridges from Bulgaria share a video message with our learners here in wishing us well for our camp. Our students loved it so much that they wanted to do a thank you video back to them there, which we did. And so another opportunity was seeing that the tutoring program was not a possibility. It was about expanding to see what other opportunities are there for grade 11s. What other things are there that they could do? And so looking at those possibilities, it opens our doors to see that there's much that can be done. The one threat, however, from the program was that with COVID-19, that funders had to pull funding. And this was highly understandable due to the fact that there was a bigger need elsewhere. And with that, we had to adapt and think. But we are so thankful for the funds that were available to us to carry out the program as it ran last year, knowing that it was such a blessing to us all. And so in conclusion, we know that young people need to take the lead with regards to thinking of ways to share compassion and in the means of being grounded in values and sharing the work of social justice and compassion. We believe in equipping them with skills of critical thinking, dialogue, and leadership, knowing that this is something that they could take to their schooling environment, to their sports environment, to their local community environments. And so we are also thinking about other ways of expanding on the Martin Silver program, thinking about the student leadership team, facilitation training programs, a broader alumni network experience, and a deeper content and program experience to local and global partnerships. And so expanding on the package that we currently have. And so with all that being said, and I just want to again say thank you for all those that have contributed to making the program possible. I want to thank Marlene, who was so key in sourcing the funding for the program. I want to thank Reverend Berry for her support and her guidance during this program, and as well as being on the board, being able to share monthly. I know Balbawa was also there on the board meetings as well as Sarah, but just being included in the conversation and be listened to. And so I just want to thank everybody for making it possible. And then lastly, to thank Sarah and Balbawa for the work that they've done with regards to the Martin Silver program as they they stepped down this year, knowing that what they have done will never be taken for granted. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody for this opportunity to share, and thank you for listening. Thank you.
JP and your entire team, I actually have no words. I'm so impressed, and thank you so much for everything that you have been doing. You really keep that flag flying high, and actually, this is what we're about. This is what we do. This is what makes the difference. We're so proud of you. Thank you. And JP mentioned a couple of people who stepped down, of course, during last year, and one of them was Sarah. And that is actually quite a perfect segue into the very last piece of business that we have to conclude on this for this AGM. And that is our advisory council. We've also had a few people step down from our advisory council, in fact, 3. One of them was our beloved Gordon Oliver, who was one of the founders of CTII. And we were hoping to be able to talk a little bit more about that today, but firstly, we've run out of time. And secondly, more importantly, Gordon has actually left the meeting, which left us with, what do we do now? So we will find another way to really honor him at a time that is more convenient to him. But what I really want to do right now is, because this year is the end of the term of service of the Advisory Council, but thank goodness that although Gordon and Izzy and Karen Barrenchair have stepped down, we do have a number of people who have offered to continue to serve on the Advisory Council, and we also have a new Advisory Council member. So I'm going to ask Christine to just share a PowerPoint presentation that she has prepared, and then we will do the vote for the Advisory Council for the term ahead, and that will conclude our business of the AGM. So please, Christine, could you go ahead and share that presentation that you prepared? Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine. I would like us to, what we normally do is we present our advisory council en bloc and we vote en bloc. So Nima is going to share the poll so that we can vote our advisory council in for the next 2 years. And again, Nima, I'm not able to vote for some reason. So if you, I think maybe it's a co-host thing. So if you would please just vote on behalf of myself and Jenny.
And for me as well. I'm not able to vote as the host. So Christine, if you'll make a note of all the people who are co-hosting and hosting, that we are voting in the positive as well.
Thank you. Well, that looks very much like 100% vote to me. So we'll just let it go for, that's it, perfect. And do you want to just stop share that? Share results. Okay. Super. Thank you so much, everybody, and welcome to our advisory council. We are absolutely going to make really good use of your skills and of your input and your insights, and we look forward to sharing the next 2 years with you. Next year, of course, at our AGM, it is the turn of the board to conclude their term of office. So we will have a board vote at next year's AGM. So it remains only for me to thank everybody, and what an amazing team that I have. I would like to just say that, because I really could not do this, any of this, on my own. And of course, I get very often to be the face that people see, but truly, I could not be here without the many people whose hard work does keep CTII going. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Nima for our closing prayer, and then you'll be just in time to catch the president.
I know I'm going to talk quickly because I know I'm competing with Cyril tonight. So just to close our eyes for a moment, feel the joy of having been brought together this evening and for all the important work that we've been doing. Share with me this prayer. Spirit of life, God of many names, be in our hearts and minds as we come together to support and encourage each other on our spiritual journeys and to support our community and country and the world towards greater harmony and peace. We pray that we are loving and kind stewards of this world. We pray that we acknowledge our differences as we seek our common ground, each of us working toward the good of all. We recognize that there's hurt and sorrow in the world. There are words that perhaps anger us. There are deeds that sadden us, and we endeavor to see and acknowledge the suffering. However, we also know that there's untold good being done by so many who work every day for the benefit of all people. And so let us be the good we want to see in others. Let us work to be the change that we seek. Let us imagine and create the goodness that we can cultivate in our lives and in the lives of others. And so may it be, now and forever. Amen.
Thank you, Nima. Good night, and God bless you, each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. And go and enjoy Cyril. Thank you so much.